Just wanted to start off, thanks Charles for saying that, and just wanted to point out to everybody who's attending today that it's October 1st and we have started National Cybersecurity Month, and I'm sure it was no accident that we're hosting it in October, but the stuff that we're talking about today is very important, and I think sometimes a lot of us in the trenches are thinking about this on a daily basis, but my talk is going to be more around how to talk to your board of directors, because sometimes that's a difficult sell when you get to the board level. So it's going to be an informal. I'll share some stories, and we'll go through this to talk about how to best position your company to get that investment that's needed through your board of directors. I'm having a hard time advancing my slides for some reason. There we go. Okay, so who am I? Big smiley blonde guy. My title here at FRSecure is one of the more comical ones. My title is the Information Security Evangelist. I fly around the country and talk about this very thing. And the experience that I bring, I've been on a lot of boards. I currently serve on 4 boards, and then in my role as an elected official at the Minnesota House of Representatives, you might say I serve on a 5th board when it comes to things like this. And I'm just super happy to be here, and hope that this brings some value to you as we move along. So I guess one of the first questions that you should ask your board of directors when they say, well, why should I care? Well, here are some good examples of why you should care. These are household names for a lot of us, and these are all folks who have suffered a breach in the recent history. Some more dramatic than others, but anytime, as Charles said, somebody winds up getting on the inside of your network and begins soaking up valuable information and valuable data, you're going to be in the weeds. And if you are a caretaker for customers' data, you are then also going to be having a bad day. So what's your board's composition? You know, as I said, I serve on multiple boards, and I have noticed over time that a lot of the folks on these boards of directors are, you know, financial people, real estate, sales. Maybe they're an angel investor or a money person, but very rarely do you see folks on boards of directors that are from, if not the security world, but not even from the IT world. It's been my experience over time of the ones I'm currently on and the ones I've been on in the past that very little representation in the boardroom comes from folks who have a security mindset. So, you know, IT, InfoSec may not have anyone, or maybe just a few on that board, but when you consider the gravity of what we're talking about and what is at risk, and literally the keys to the kingdom of your company could be at risk, it becomes very, very important that your board has at least an understanding or an education on why information security is as important as having a good sales force, or having a great product, or even having the physical security of your building. It is absolutely paramount. And as we go through this, we're going to talk a little bit about ways that you can nurture people from within your board to become information security mindful, and then carry that conversation into things like when they set up funding and budgets as we move forward in the year. So the problem, here's the basic one. A lot of them don't understand what it is that they're dealing with. And as Charles said in his introduction about our company, Evan Francine has articulated it, and we all believe it, that a lot of folks look at information security or cybersecurity simply as an IT issue. And they think of it no differently than they do a new laptop or servers or software. And it's so much more. Information security is in many ways, it's a culture. So when I started at FRSecure a few years ago, Jess, who's on this call, was introduced to me, and I made the mistake of leaving my laptop open. And that was a profound mistake because it was brought to my attention that I was putting our entire company at risk. So we have a little thing that we will mess with people who leave their laptops open. That's a benign example of how information security is a cultural thing. Making sure that you think about how your company is protecting both your employees and your customers, as well as your physical assets and sometimes your cash, is that cultural approach that really isn't an IT issue. So as you move forward from there, when you're in the boardroom and you're talking about big and important issues that all require money, you wind up with what I call funding competition. And I've seen it happen. Somebody says, well, we need to grow the bottom line, so we need more salespeople. So we're going to put off this large information security undertaking for another quarter, or we may have to put it off till next year because we really have to drive revenue. And the best way we can drive revenue is through sales or a new web page or some marketing efforts. And those are all excellent things. Those are things that we should and must do. But I think when you have a board that doesn't fully understand the totality of information security, you wind up allowing things that are as important as information security to take money away from it because it's deeply misunderstood. And very often the security decisions are not made with a comprehensive view by everybody on the board. So, you know, that real estate person or the person who deals with marketing may not understand that the lack of information security or potential breach not just is a reputational damage or financial damage, but it could compromise the very viability of your company. So other challenges, as I said just a second ago, very often large capital projects get presented in boardrooms without somebody who's a true champion. And that board member either doesn't have the education or the desire or really the understanding that it's a business issue. Information security is a business issue. And if you allow it to become something that's sort of a subcategory that is along the lines of the server room, then we're in trouble. And a lot of times when those budgets are tight, you wind up losing that long-term commitment to something else. The goal here is to create a champion who's going to elevate that inside the boardroom, and through elevating it inside the boardroom is going to begin pushing those cultural decisions that go across every single member of the team, from a brand new hire to the person that may have been there for 15, 20 years. It really becomes something that folks have to adopt and make sure that they are integrating into their daily work lives. So you need a champion. And a lot of times you'll kind of look through who's on the board and you'll sift through various folks that may be on there, but that person needs to be a dynamic personality that can walk into the boardroom and, you know, maybe if it's not on the agenda, they can find a place to stand up and say, you know, we need to talk about this information security idea because it is a real potential pitfall for us as a company. And I want to elevate it to a level of conversation, even though it wasn't on the agenda. That's the kind of person that you are going to need. And here's a really interesting part about this, based on my experience. Your champion might not be somebody who even works in the IT part of your company. On two boards that I serve on, I have sort of created an ally or a champion with people who are CFOs and COOs. And the CFO, we'll use that as an example. The CFO understands risk from a monetary loss. They're counting every nickel and they're trying to make sure that they are looking at trends. They're looking at how they can manage the finances of the company to put it in a strong position, and that they can, through really a wise managing of the funds, bring the company towards greater maturity, greater profitability for either the investors or the owners. That's the person that you need, so that when they sit down and they can talk money and they can talk about what's putting that money at risk, they can introduce the information security or cybersecurity conversation as a real viable potential loss for the bottom line. Best way to do that is very casually, I think, very very relationally. Walk up to your CFO or your COO, get on their calendar, and bring forward the idea that the topic that you're going to talk about is not just an IT thing, and it's not much like the blinky lights in the server room. It is something that could be the potential downfall of the entire company. So you create that alliance, you enable them, you educate them, you empower them to go into the boardroom and begin sharing the case and making a difference. And honestly, don't be upset if that champion's not you. There have been a lot of folks that I think bring it up because they want to be the champion, but there may be somebody who's more aptly prepared to be that champion inside the boardroom. So pick your champion, equip them, and make them so that they're ready to go and succeed. So from there, that champion has to sell the value. And the value in it is, just like we had talked about before, it's minimizing the exposure of the company so that you have less potential loss. And I think from the best way to sell it is these small bullets here. And I'm not going to read all through them, but the criteria for the decision made in the boardroom and the cultural change made in the company is we have to have information security that is objective, measurable, repeatable, and it has a commonality to it that employees who are perhaps in different departments or in different offices around the country or working from home, I guess nowadays, that they all are on the same page. So that champion has to come in with a methodology that says, we are measuring our security through objective, measurable, repeatable means, and that we're all speaking the same language. If we can do that, it's going to be sustainable. So for it to succeed, your InfoSec plan has to have that executive buy-in. Your champion needs to be able to really chat that up inside the boardroom or on the golf course or on an airplane somewhere and really talk about how it's very, very important. They have to be able to drive that it is a very big business issue. We've seen businesses that have been put in great peril by a breach, or their data has been ransomed. If you don't have the ability to recover from that and you've been really bad at how you're handling information security, there have been companies that go out of business as a result. So another good thing to make sure that your champion understands that InfoSec touches every department and every P&L. Everyone's trying to find ways to do their job better or drive more revenue or be more efficient. But if you have a breach or a ransom event, it's going to impact every single department. So it's got to be sustainable. I worked for a company that was very much on board with the Six Sigma effort, and it was great stuff, but it became very cumbersome, and as a result, it was not sustainable. And for information security to be that long-term sustainable effort, it has to be easy to understand. It has to be not onerous for the people who are going to begin carrying it out. And it has to be that cultural priority within the organization. We hear when we're out speaking, and I know Charles and other of our analysts are hearing that folks are chasing that shiny object, that everybody listens to something on talk radio and they begin chasing those things. Very often they're buying stuff that they already have, and they're duplicating their efforts. So having that objectivity, having that baseline information that working with a good security company can provide you is going to be very, very helpful long term for you. It all starts with an assessment and that roadmap. The successful journey starts at point A, and if it ends at point Z, all these things that we've got in here are important components. Your assessment has to be mappable into actions that can be carried out, and that executive champion needs to be able to display that and portray that to the people who are going to help make those decisions. You've got to figure out where that destination is. So many companies don't need to go as far as a more complex corporation. They've got fewer things, and they need to also bite off a certain amount of security that they can afford and that they can implement in a digestible manner. So you have to take that inventory of where you are and where you want to go, and then really do it in sort of, in using the map analogy, take day trips. Don't decide to hop in the car and try to make that long cross-country trip. You need to do it iteratively, so that it doesn't become something that is like a grandiose, large-scale effort that you can't really get done. To make sure that you're building that consensus and building that buy-off, make sure you're talking to your executive champion a lot. Make sure that you are working with them to set company expectations, so that at all company meetings, like we have 4 a year at FRSecure, we make sure that we're touching base with our folks, and we make sure that we do talk about security even at an information security company. And then share the high-level details that the board has gone through. Share it with the board and share it throughout the company as something that is a win and an exciting effort. Folks will get more and more accustomed to it. It will become that cultural expectation, and folks will begin changing their daily work habits to conform to the security plan that everybody has come up with. Charles said it well, that con men haven't really stopped. His movie example was from the 1920s, 1930s. People don't stop, and their methodologies continue to morph. And the board has to understand that just because you've made an effort doesn't mean that after your maybe 1 year plan that you're done. It has to be a continual improvement plan that you go back and take checkups, and you make sure that you're covering your vulnerabilities, that you're making sure that you pursue greater maturity. Share those improvements as victories. It's important, again, to make it exciting for both your board and your folks that work at the company, and work with that champion to nurture other supporters and other champions within the organization. The strongest InfoSec plan is going to be the one that has everybody in the C-suite all the way down to the brand new employee bought off on this. And it takes work. It takes a lot of effort to make sure that everybody's moving in that same direction. And lastly, as you're going along this, make sure that you're enjoying the journey, because it is kind of fun to make sure that you're protecting not only your data, your employees' data, your customers' data, but the assets of the company that is employing you, so that they have long-term viability.